Well, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Storyboard18 Global Pioneers Summit and Storyboard18 Awards for Creativity. Tonight is really about a simple idea, celebrating people who don't just follow the script but rewrite it, the ones shaping how India thinks, creates and shows up in the world. Because India today isn't just growing, it's expressing itself. From Bollywood to boardrooms, from viral moments to big ideas, Indian creativity has gone global. No permission needed. And at the same time, the way we create is changing. AI is now part of everyday work across agencies and marketing teams. Things move faster, reach is wider, and that makes original human creativity more important than ever. Which brings us to our theme, Viksit Bharat, building India's next decade of leadership. The next chapter of India won't just be built in policy rooms, it'll be shaped by ideas, stories, and bold creative choices. And that's what tonight is about, the people driving that shift and the work that's pushing all of us forward. Before we move ahead, we'd like to take a moment to thank our like-minded partners, title partner Hyundai, associate partners Seat and Reliance. Now let's get started. A question that's been looming for years in India's businesses and creative communities is, how do you turn scale into meaning? How do you build brands that aren't just big but truly matter? That's what this next session explores, because this shift is already underway and the leaders joining us are right at the center of it. Building with ambition, thinking beyond borders, and shaping what Indian enterprise represents to the world. It is my pleasure to invite on stage Shubhranshu Singh, member of the Board of Directors at the FE Lions Foundation, and joining him is Suresh Kharakbhavi, the CEO of Digi Yatra Foundation. Please welcome them with a huge round of applause.
Thank you. Good evening. I was expected to do this chat with two people, as a matter of fact, but I am privileged to do this with Suresh. They have wired me up as if I do this for a living, and they're barking instructions in my earpiece saying that since we have started later, we have even lesser time. So let me just jump straight into the relevance for this section as the kickoff session. We have in India, in digitalization, Suresh, achieved scale like perhaps nowhere else on the planet except perhaps China, and there also we know it's largely a walled garden. In India, that scale is actually between public, private, as well as federated partnerships, whether it's in the area of fintech, whether it's public infrastructure, social media, or even AI. Most people don't know we have the single largest subscriber population on the planet. So this scaling up is happening just at the same time that most Indians are also coming fully into the consumption funnel. But what Suresh and Digi Yatra have done is actually completely separate from the usual commercial chaos that happens around competing brands, competing modalities in the digital space. Because here you have a business model which is first of all run by a foundation that co-opts not only the government, the civil aviation ministry, but also private and public airports. It then goes across to hundreds of millions of travelers. Potentially anybody who is going into an airport is a customer for them. And what they trade in exchange is very intimate personal data. In the sense, biometric is the closest you get to the layer of privacy. And underlying this model is trust. Now, when we were discussing the topic earlier, scale is about engineering and how large and how big you can make it in iterations. Engagement is about institutional trust, but significance is about culture. And India is a country where the demographics is very geared towards trust as an enabler. We are a country with 40 crore Indians not yet 20 years of age. 65 crore Indians are less than 32 years of age. We have 800 million plus cell phones. So with that context, Suresh is the CEO of the Digi Yatra Foundation, and he's responsible for keeping all of these balls in the air, as I mentioned. So let me open it up with the first question, Suresh, which is, if you had a chance as DigiYatra Foundation to do this all over again, do you think you would have done it slower or faster? In other words, is scale leading to the model being what it is today? If there were lesser people, would you have had deeper user experience, different use cases, different models?
So given the choice, right, I don't think I would have done anything differently. Fundamentally, what we tried to address was a pain point that everyone has, right, which is in India especially, right, for every resource that you want, there is more number of, I mean, the demand is more, and therefore you will have queues almost everywhere, right, for anything that you want to get, be it the ration or be it to board a bus, and local trains, of course, right? So everywhere there is a queue. Of course, in local trains, so train stations, you wouldn't find queues. But the whole point here is at airports, right? Queuing up for multiple checkpoints, doing the same process time and again, right? I think that is something which we tried to solve, and it was a pain point which was relevant to every air traveler. And when we say air traveler, right, while today we are the Prime Minister Modi ji, he's speaking about today desh ka aam nagrik, right? But the whole point here is still people think that flying is elite, right? I mean, a level and above, right, would travel. But then what happens at the airport? It's the same queues and multiple document checks, identity card, your travel document, etc. So I think that's the pain point that we solved. And the simplicity of the whole process itself is the key why we have succeeded at scale and at volume.
Now, let's talk about the opposite end of the spectrum. When things go wrong, who has made a mistake and who is left holding the can? In other words, is it the fault of underlying technology? Is it the fault of the foundation? Could it be a unit level issue? Because trust is fragile, the scale is humongous, data breaches are a possibility, and you are holding that data. The common perception is DigiYatra will know everything I've done in the past, and I know that that's not true. So maybe you want to speak about what are the privacy guardrails that make it safe for us to scale up endlessly on this.
So Shubhranshu, I think fundamentally, I think people do not understand the architecture of DigiYatra. We are the first privacy by design ecosystem at scale, at volume, I would say globally. There is no playbook, first of all, for DigiYatra. The way we sort of manage the whole process is that there is no central storage of anybody's credentials. So the credentials that you create in DigiYatra are just created by us, and we put a signature of DigiYatra Foundation as an issuer, and that credential stays in your own phone, right? I was asked this question many times, right, as to how easy it is. You are saying that you got 23 million plus user base. Would it not be very easy for somebody to hack into your database? So I say that, if you want to hack into the DigiYatra database, you have to hack the 23 plus million phones that are there, because that's where the data lies. And yes, when you travel, what you do is you share your boarding pass along with your identity credential to where? To the departing airport. And the departing airport then validates you when you travel on the day of travel. And post that, within 24 hours, that data also gets purged. And this is all a systemic purge that happens. And when that purge happens, you are done with the whole thing, right? So at risk, data at risk is very minimal. It's only for a temporary duration just to enable the travel. And everything is consent driven, right? From the time that you create your credential to sharing your boarding pass, you will see there is a consent screen that pops up. And we are trying to make it even more robust, right? We would want people to also have a record of what are the various consents that they have given when they have given the consent. And another example that I would like to give is, and I was at this tech summit where I was presenting the whole DigiYatra architecture. It's called as the self-sovereign identity concept. In that architecture, I was having a number of slides which showed the way the data flows, the way the credential gets created, how data in transit, at storage is all encrypted. So all that I was explaining, and there was this, and this was a tech summit. All the techies were in front, and there was this lady who was not convinced that we do not store their credentials. So I gave her one task. I said that you got WhatsApp. Since you don't have the DigiYatra app, you'll have to install the DigiYatra app, enroll, create your credential. Now uninstall both these apps, WhatsApp as well as the DigiYatra app. And you will see the difference when you reinstall these apps. When you reinstall the WhatsApp, of course, the data, all your chats and all are stored privately, securely, etc. But still, you will get your chats back. You will get your contacts back, etc., etc. However, the same does not apply with DigiYatra because your credential you'll have to recreate again because we never stored your credential. And all the travel data that was there also is not stored. It's all there in your phone, but we have not stored it. So
this is a very big debate currently on in Europe, which has largely set the standards everywhere, saying every citizen in the digital commons has a right to be forgotten. So the right to forget is something principle. I think we have just time for a very short question now, Suresh, and that is to do with what else are the possibilities when civic infrastructure can be built at scale with things like biometric. We have seen this in the fantastic FinStack that India has built for itself. But my son is going to celebrate his 18th birthday in June. And we are paranoid. Nowadays, 18-year-old boys don't want their parents to come with them for the birthday party. And we don't know where they will end up next. So I was wondering, why couldn't you have a DigiYatra-like application if they were to enter a pub or a bar, for example? Or 100 other use cases like this. And no offense to the guests from Diageo, but I'm just saying, why not do this in terms of open opportunity, but equal access, and then filtering through, I mean, why only airport access?
yeah, so you could possibly prevent all kinds of fraud, right? Age fraud, for example. And you don't actually need to share your whole identity card. Like you are at the bar counter and you want to be served a beer, but the thing that you have to prove there is that you are above 21, right? 21 is the legal age for drinking. And the point is, I would maybe show my identity card, and that could be a fake identity card also. But with a verifiable credential that DigiYatra has, for example, there is a selective disclosure possible. Maybe you just tap your phone and it says that, this guy is above 18. And you could also have, if it is the purpose defines the process, right? So the purpose is to validate that person, then you could actually validate your face as well and say that, yes, this face is above 18, right? So that's something which is certainly possible. Again, it's a completely privacy by design ecosystem. So yeah, I think multiple use cases are possible. I would say many of you might have checked into this hotel or maybe some other hotel, right? And I did that also. Unfortunately, there is no DigiYatra use in hotels. I had to give my Aadhaar ID card from the DigiLocker, and the person actually took a photo of that. And how safe is that? Because it's all unencrypted, personally identifiable information of mine, including perhaps my address also, right? I don't know. Yeah, so many things were there, and it's all now given to somebody. You open a bank account, right? What do? You give your Aadhaar card copy, you give passport size photograph, and now it's all in hard copy, and it goes through so many different hands. And how many chances are there for that data to get leaked? And how about DigiYatra, for example? And if you have updated the DigiYatra app recently, you would see on your credential, beside your photo, there is one QR code which says this QR has immense potential. Watch out for this space, right? And that is something which we are thinking of for the future use case, right? Which is you show that QR code and you can get validated for your identity or for any other purpose, right? Age also. And that is something which is the power of DigiYatra, which is completely privacy by design. And you mentioned about Europe, for example, right? Europe is also using, they have set up a framework called as the EUDI, which is the European Union Digital Identity Framework, where they use a similar wallet, which is the universal wallet. And we also use the similar universal wallet. They use verifiable credentials. We also do the same. There are multiple standards which are there, and we adhere to all those standards. So in the end, actually, maybe you did not ask me the question, but in the end, what will happen is what DigiYatra does today for domestic travel, it could also potentially do it for international travel, which is you could seamlessly share your credential not just to the departing airport in India, but also to the destination airport. And I have experienced this so many times, and so many of you would have experienced it. You take a 10-hour long flight, reach a destination in Europe, and 2 hours long immigration queue. And after a 10-hour long flight, and then you are not ready even for, okay, where did you come from? Right? I mean, you're not in your mind to perhaps answer even that simple question. So why does that interaction, I mean, why is it needed, right? You could actually share your credential to the destination airport and walk through. Maybe you scan your passport and match your face and you're through, right? So that's the experience that we would want to give, and vice versa. And the other thing is the EU folks, right? They could use their credentials to come into India in the same way. So it works both ways. So we are working towards that goal, which is the global interoperability and the international end-to-end use case.
Well, unfortunately, time's been up for a long while, so our yatra here is over. But on behalf of everybody here, I thank you for all the stellar work you're doing. On early morning flights, it's really blissful to be able to arrive 20 minutes later and yet not be nervous about getting into the airport. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your invaluable insights. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, give it up for Subhranshu Singh and Suresh Kharagbavi. Now we've arrived at a big moment this evening because this goes beyond just launching an awards platform. It's about recognizing the work that made us pause, think, and feel something. The work that pushed boundaries and reminded us why we chose this industry in the first place. And with that, we're proud to officially launch the Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity. And to mark the occasion, I'd like to invite on stage editor Storyboard 18, Dilshad Irani. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you for that, Shruti, and it's such a pleasure to have you all with us today. Let me, at the start, say that we are at the most exciting moment in the history of this industry. More canvas, more tools, more audiences, more ways to matter, and more reason than ever to make work that is genuinely worth remembering. And what a moment to be saying that, because if you work in this industry right now in India in 2026, you are living through something genuinely historic. What that means in plain terms is this: the canvas has never been larger, the audience has never been more reachable, and the appetite for Indian stories told in Indian voices, rooted in Indian truths, has never been greater at home or abroad. The brands that will win in this decade are those that bring creativity and intelligence together, not as competing forces, but as partners. The ones that use data to understand what people need and use creativity to give them something they never knew they wanted. The ones that understand that technology should amplify human creativity, not replace the instinct behind it. Thank you to each one of you for joining us today as we launch the Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity, born from a conviction that great work deserves to be seen and celebrated with the same rigor and seriousness that we apply to business results. A special thank you to the grand jury that helped us in identifying the winners of the first edition of the Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity, to everyone nominated tonight, and to everyone who made work this year that made them proud. This evening belongs to you. India is telling its story to the world, and you are the ones scripting it. Thank you all, and have a great evening ahead.
Thank you, Dilshad. Now, if you work in advertising, marketing, or media, you've spent the last few years watching the world recalibrate. Consumer behavior has shifted, attention spans have shortened, but desire, if anything, it's stronger, sharper, and more demanding than ever. So the real question is, how do you build brands that keep up and, more importantly, last? Our next speaker lives that challenge every day. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Praveen Someshwar, CEO and Managing Director of Diageo India.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me. Lovely to hear the Digiyatra story. I'll give you a small anecdote which happened, I think, a week back. Me and my global chair were traveling through one of the Indian airports, and I was using Digiyatra. He was using the manned services of the airport, the privileged services. I reached the other side of the security, which is an ordeal in itself. Other side of the security, and I waited for him for 15 minutes. Part of Digiyatra, so I just say, really good to see that. It's a privilege to be here, part of this conversation. That in many ways is about the future of India, as I see it. Not just as an economy, but as an idea which is waiting to be shaped. That's how I look at it. For India, it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity. It doesn't happen too often that the demography of the country, the digital adoption of the country, and the scale and the creativity converge together. It's happened in many other economies, and not sure if you've seen that level of explosion other than one such economy, and that's China. We saw it all coming together 15 years back, and it really shaped itself to a very different space. It's happening to India today. Over the past decade, I think there are three things which are happening. One is the demography. Okay, we're starting to get the dividend for that. In another few years, roughly 65% of our population will be less than 35 years old. That's an ideal space to be in. It's truly a consumption economy waiting to be exploded. Second, I genuinely believe the public infrastructure, especially on digital, is powerful in India. It has its set of challenges, and nobody speaks the challenges, but I think the value to be unlocked is massive, and that's a powerful proposition. And the third, according to me, or the most important one, is the rapidly growing middle class, which is increasingly confident in its nature. It's not shy anymore, it's extremely confident. I think, therefore, the coming decade, as I see it, will move beyond economic expansion. It is to how India defines the character of that growth. We'll see about the choices businesses need to make, institutions need to create, okay, and leaders need to make around innovating so that we are able to build the economy in a very inclusive and responsible manner. Now, the idea of Viksit Bharat by 2047 reflects that very ambition. But achieving it depends on whether India can fully leverage this unique opportunity as a market, as a society, and as an emerging cultural force in the global economy. At the heart of this transformation, I should say, is about the aspirational consumer and how premiumization will play a key role. Now, over the past decades, tens of millions of Indian consumers are starting to get into the consumption economy. You're starting to see how it's growing. But their expectations, as we see, are fundamentally very different from the earlier generation. I dare say our generation or the generation after. Very clearly, very different. Consumers are not seeking only access anymore. In a manner, the digital infrastructure has democratized access of any type. You could talk about services, you could talk about products, you could talk about knowledge. It's all got democratized in a nice, very simple way. What it's doing to consumers is they're moving from just consuming a product to move up the value chain. So the way it's shifting is it's moving from volume, as I see it, to value. And ultimately, it's moving from affordability to aspiration. And that's the big part of change. And the brands that will succeed will not just merely sell to India. I think they will be the ones who understand the social fabric, understand the cultural nuance, and therefore will unlock the opportunity. Now, premiumization, lots been spoken about premiumization. And typically premiumization in a corporate sector is spoken about how pricing's played very, very well. I don't think premiumization is about pricing. As I see it, premiumization is about a new, very confident consumer who has started believing that the future is very bright and the future is marginally better than the present, and therefore has constantly started working to work his way up the value chain. Now, we are seeing this across categories, and I could talk about cars, I could talk about our own sector, Alcobev, and you're seeing premiumization play out in a very, very confident manner. The top end is growing significantly faster than the value end of it. So very, very clearly, that's the explosion of a confident India. Now, for all of this to work, we have to move from made for India to create from India overall, and the role of private and public enterprise. For decades, and I think over the last many, many years, India was seen primarily as a large future market. Corporations after corporations came in and said, this is a market we need to invest for the future, not for the present, for the future. But I think that's changing. It's changing not only because of scale. It's changing because the source of ideas, creativity, and the cultural influence is starting to make a very different impact. Indian entrepreneurs themselves are building consumer brands with truly global potential. He just spoke about Digiyatra, and to my mind, it's a small footprint, but I can tell you, when you walk globally, you'll realize the power of that footprint, and many, many other economies want to build on this footprint. So it's not only in terms of products, it is in terms of various spaces, creativity and cultural influence. I think from cinema to digital content, the tech, I think we are starting to shape culture, not only in India, but globally. Indian companies are emerging clearly as innovation hubs, that solutions are getting developed not only which are relevant for India, but absolutely relevant for the world at large. The shift, therefore, is from made for India to create from India. I think the next decade will determine whether India becomes not only one of the world's largest markets, but also one of its most important source of ideas and cultural capital. And the role of private or public enterprises is going to play key to that. I think governments can create only frameworks for growth, but it is the businesses that need to translate those frameworks, those policies, into real investments and real opportunities, create in some way innovation, employment, and value creation. Private companies sit at the heart of the socio-economic fabric of modern economies. They build brands and products for the overall country. They generate livelihoods. They invest in talent, tech. Increasingly, they are also expected to lead on questions of sustainability, inclusion, and responsible growth. So the next phase of development, if I may say, companies that succeed will be those that recognize that commercial successes and societal progress are deeply interconnected. Let me take the example of our own industry, and it's an industry which comes with lots of challenges, but it's an absolute important part of everyone's daily life. I can say that I've just got into the industry, and I can see how integral it is to everyone's daily life. Globally, the category has gone through profound transformation over the past 2 decades. Okay, it's moved towards premiumization, so volume to value is significant. craftsmanship of a very different nature. It started from Japan, it's now gone across the world. Heritage started off from Scotland, but now has moved across, if you can take the agave spirits from Mexico, and experientials. Now, that's happened across the world. In India also, we are starting to see consumers are becoming very discerning. They're seeking authenticity, quality, and brands that reflect both global standards and local cultural relevance. But with this responsibility, with this opportunity, if I may say, comes responsibility. When approached thoughtfully, the category can contribute meaningfully to India's evolving consumer economy and supporting the value chain across. The importance it plays in the agricultural value chain is immense, in terms of ensuring that we formalize our agri-economy. And equally, the premiumization in the broader hospitality and retail ecosystem. At Diageo, a year back, we did a study to understand through an independent body what is the impact we create to the economy. An independent study named from Pehle India Foundation said that we contribute up to 50,000 crores to India's GDP. We create 650,000 jobs on a regular basis. And if you look at it, we contribute to the agri-economy, to the services economy, and the manufacturing economy. So each part of it, and jobs are created in each part of this economy. And that's the power, if I may say so, of clearly a large public enterprise. So our ambition is not simply to grow in India, it is to grow in alignment with the country's large, long-term economic and social progress for Viksit Bharat. Ultimately, the question of Viksit Bharat is also a question of leadership for the next decade. Okay? In a country as vibrant and complex as India, organizations that will thrive will be the ones that combine creativity with agility, imagining boldly while adapting quickly to change. And adapting is the key. Because the future of India will not be shaped by scale alone. It will be shaped by the quality of leadership guiding its growth. Now, India stands, as I look at it, at the beginning of an extraordinary decade. And if all the forces move in alignment across enterprise, policy, capital, and creativity, India will grow significantly faster. It will grow more confidently, more responsibly, and with greater influence in shaping the global economy. The question before us today is not whether India will grow. It is about how it will grow. Thank you.
What an insightful address, Mr. Someshwar. Request you to kindly stay back on stage for the discussion. India's next decade is about setting the pace, and our next session decodes what it will take to do that with confidence, purpose, and a global mindset. And to lead with this, we have with us Dilshad. Dilshad, over to you.
Thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Praveen, for that, for setting the tone as well. Great start with that anecdote. It's definitely eased a lot of lives. But you've covered a lot of the things we had planned to talk about during this discussion, but I'll sort of draw on a few things you said. You use words like creativity, value, premiumization, create for India, and I would add create for the world as well in India. So we know the India story. We know that this is India's decade. We talk about Viksit Bharat. But tell me about the roadblocks you see, Praveen. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Look, I think roadblocks are real, and that's why I say India is one of the most complex markets you will see across the world. Okay? The type of consumer you say, and let's talk consumer. You got to constantly look at consumers with a lens which works and try to peel India into different layers. There's an India 1, India 2, India 3. Whichever way you define it, they are very, very different set of consumers. At the top end, they could be anywhere in the world. And therefore, you got to communicate to them differently and work with them very differently. At the bottom end, they are truly looking at aspirational products. And therefore, while accessibility, just because of our digital infrastructure today, is pretty democratized, the way I see it is you got to really create products which are very aspirational at just the. Now, that level of segmentation, if I were to see in any other part of most other parts of the world, is not as clear. So that it's a simple consumer challenge. I could talk about a consumer challenge. We could talk about policy challenges. We could talk about infrastructure challenges.
Quick one on policy challenges, especially given the industry that you operate in, Praveen. And you've had diverse experiences yourself, coming from foods to media, and now again at Diageo. Tell me about the policy challenges, and have those challenges eased at all in the past?
So as I wasn't able to finish what I wanted to say.
Please go on.
But we'll talk policy. And I think, as I said, consumer, there are policy challenges. India is for our industry, India has 36 different markets. It's more complex than Europe, if I may say so, because every state has its own, overall broad policy and what tax structure, what route to market, what pricing, what product portfolio I can play. So it's as complex, or if not more, than Europe in general, which also has now one policy. So you got a set of complex challenges: consumer, policy, infrastructure, whichever way you look at it. But I think the whole idea is, in that complexity lies a massive opportunity. In that complexity tells you how to play those different sects in a very authentic manner. And that is a massive opportunity to be unlocked. And what we have seen over the last, what I've seen in this industry over the last year, or what we have seen in over businesses in the last few years, if you embrace that challenge and play to it in a very authentic manner, there are massive opportunities.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't worry as much around the challenges. I would look at the opportunity.
Absolutely. You also spoke about brand building, and I want to get one more question in before we move to the awards segment. When it comes to brand building, given the recent developments at Diageo, how does Diageo see brand building beyond its core categories? Because the RCB exit, for example, was framed as a non-core element. So how do you see brand building now for Diageo, Praveen?
Core and non-core doesn't impact brand building as I see it. Okay, brand building models are consistent. We'll work to consumer insights, and we'll work to the power of our product to build brands for our consumers. Core and non-core business is something we need to constantly look at. I think the way I look at it is it's an intersection of the opportunity in the marketplace, our own core capabilities, and our shareholder returns. And if you look at that intersection, it needs to work for all three of them. And when it works for all three of them, magic happens. And that usually happens where we have capability, we have powerful brands, and that's where opportunity. In the non-core business, you tend to make lesser and lesser return, and therefore you need to make choices as you go around. But brand building is a massive opportunity in India, and we recently launched our own Indian version of single malt a year and a half back, and it's done exceedingly well. We've seen it in this short period, it's been 2.5 years. It's now been, now globally, it's available, and it's amongst the top 3 or 4 Indian single malts. So it's a powerful proposition to consistently nurture future propositions.
Absolutely. Consistently nurturing, and of course, the choices we have to make every day. Thank you for sharing that with us, Praveen, and also from your address earlier when you laid out the vision. Thank you again, and I'll bring Shruti back on to guide us to the next segment.
Thank you for that engaging session, Mr. Someshwar and Dilshad. I'd request you to kindly stay back for our awards section. Moving on to our awards section now. Ladies and gentlemen, our first category of the Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity is Creative Media Strategy. Celebrating the brands that understand context is everything. That the right message in the right place at the right moment is what turns a good campaign into an unforgettable one. Starting with the bronze winner in the Creative Media Strategy category. And the winner is Amazon MX Player for Content as Currency Ashram Season 3. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the team. Request you all to kindly come up on stage. Keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, I see an all-women's team. Many congratulations. Thank you so much for coming. Moving on, the next award is for the silver winner in the Creative Media Strategy category, a campaign that owned the airwaves with confidence, combining precision and personality in a way that truly stood out. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Kia for the Radio City Takeover. Many congratulations. Thank you for joining us tonight. And now it's time to felicitate the gold winner in the Creative Media Strategy category. The most effective media strategies don't feel like strategy at all. They feel like moments, and this was exactly that. Many congratulations to the Swiggy team. May I please invite Rohit Kapoor, CEO Food Marketplace at Swiggy, to accept the award. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the Swiggy team. Rohit, yes,
Rohit, can we have you say a few quick words?
So, I think on creativity, the only thing I do is get out of the way, right? And I lead a brand which I have very little personal affinity to, because anytime they do anything and I don't like it, I know it's right, right? So some simple rules and philosophy. He's Prateek. He's our head of creative. He lives in the hills, 365 days a year. He comes down only for these awards and goes back into Ramgarh in the hills. But you know, it's a nice brand to play around with, creative. It's a wonderful canvas. I think we serve 750 towns in India. Our consumer base is from, you know, Dharavi to Altamont Road, right? From age group 14 to 80. So it's a wonderful, wonderful challenge. And the team just keeps killing it. Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Well, many congratulations once again. With that, we move to the digital and social innovation category of the awards, celebrating the campaigns that understood the internet not as a broadcast channel, but as a conversation. These brands didn't just post content, they created culture. We start with the bronze winner in the digital and social innovation category, and the winner is Snapchat India for Snapstar Squad. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Many congratulations, Snapchat India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's celebrate a work that reimagines how we experience digital spaces, turning platforms into truly creative playgrounds. The Silver Award for Digital and Social Innovation goes to Snapchat Inc. for Snap with Stars. A huge round of applause. Request the team to kindly come up on stage. Welcome back. Congratulations once again. And now for the gold category, we have two winners this year. The first gold award winner is Kit Kat for Snap to Decide. Can we have the team up here, please? Ladies and gentlemen, keep the applause going. Many congratulations. Moving on to our second gold award winner, and the second gold award goes to Swiggy for IPL 2025. Can we have the team back on stage? Congratulations, teams, once again. Very well deserved. Ladies and gentlemen, our next category for this evening is Integrated Campaign of the Year, honoring the ability to weave a consistent, compelling narrative across every touch point. Now, this is where strategy and imagination truly meet. We begin with the bronze winner for Integrated Campaign of the Year, and the award goes to Center Fresh for Dimag Pe Rakhe Lagam. Many congratulations. And now we move to the next award in the silver category for Integrated Campaign of the Year. We have two winners this year. Our first winner is a brand that understands its audience deeply, speaks their language effortlessly, and shows up with consistency and confidence. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the entire team at Puma India. May we have you on stage, please? Many congratulations, team. And now it's time to honor the second silver winner in this category. The second silver award goes to, well, we need to have the team back. Swiggy for IPL 2025. What a delivery. Congratulations. And now the gold winner for Integrated Campaign of the Year. It's a campaign that turned an important social message into a true cultural moment, giving India a character it didn't just notice but embrace. Well, let's give it up for HDFC for Vigilante. Ladies and gentlemen, keep the applause for going for the HDFC team. Many congratulations, team. And with this, we've come to the end of our first set of awards. Thank you so much, Mr. Someshwar. Thank you, Dilshad, for felicitating our winners. We now move to a session that sits right at the intersection of culture, commerce, and one of the most powerful shifts of our time. Every decade has had its defining medium. Television, then the internet, then mobile. Now this decade belongs to the creator. In India, creators today aren't just shaping content, they're shaping culture, building communities, and in many ways becoming media companies of their own. To share her perspective on what this means for India's digital economy, please welcome on stage Gunjan Soni, Country Managing Director, YouTube India. Let's give her a warm welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, good evening, everyone. And first of all, a huge applause to the Storyboard18 team for organizing this wonderful event to celebrate creativity. Just absolutely loving the energy in this room and looking forward to the rest of the show. Well, you know what? I wanted to start with a story. And this is a story about a young man from Rajasthan. And his name is Amit Sharma. Now, Amit loved science. But instead of following a traditional path, like many people, he decided to turn his curiosity into a digital lamp. And today, millions of people know him as Crazy XYZ. Amit is running a professional enterprise. He has a dedicated team, a massive studio spread over 4 acres, and he's turned his passion for experimentation into a thriving business. And frankly, Amit's story is the story of the modern India. In the last decade, India didn't just come online. India started speaking up and sharing. It's a transition from being a nation of passive content consumers to the world's largest lab of digital creators, with over 100 million channels uploading content on YouTube alone last year. And when millions of citizens move to becoming active participants in the economy, the very definition of development, or vikas, changes. It becomes more inclusive, more decentralized, and frankly, more human. And this is the heart of our discussion today, Viksit Bharat, a vision of a developed India and the next decade. Now, usually when we discuss infrastructure for a developed nation, we talk about road supports, and in today's world, maybe even data centers. But today, I wanted to talk about a very different kind of infrastructure with you, the infrastructure of national ambition. At YouTube, we are seeing this in action every day with our creators. How creativity, audience trust, and entrepreneurship are fusing to build India's next decade of innovation. This is the heart of the orange economy, where our creative assets are deeply fueling our economic growth. So when creators like Santosh and Akash Yadav launch the Indian Farmers, they share modern agriculture techniques and use their channels to employ people from their own village. This is innovation and inclusivity in real time. And when a creator like Malar uses her channel to teach English to native Tamil speakers, she's helping homemakers gain confidence and young professionals ace job interviews. Frankly, she's again supporting our government's policy goals of education and job creation. In fact, 98% of users in India utilize YouTube to gather information and knowledge. Clearly, as a nation, we are hungry and curious and love learning. In the next decade, this growth in India's creative economy is going to be fueled by at least 3 strategic pillars. 1, the continued democratization of entrepreneurship. 2, the globalization of Indian content. And finally and crucially, the AI multiplier. Of course, no discussion today is complete without that. Let me talk about the first pillar. In the past, starting a business required massive capital. Today, all you need is a smartphone and a unique perspective, and that's the only barrier to entry. And therefore, we are seeing the rise of what we call the content entrepreneurs. These are individuals from all over India, Meerut, Kochi, Guwahati, who are building microeconomies, employing editors, screenwriters, and social media managers, and frankly, even launching D2C brands. Take Yashi Tang, for example. She built a formidable audience on YouTube and then went ahead to launch Suyash Fashion, a boutique specializing in Rajasthani prints. Within the first year of launch itself, she employed over 20 people and shipped 10,000 orders across India. Now, this audience, more than any other, knows that we are living in an area of extreme fragmented attention. And in this era, what we are observing is that successful creativity and successful creators are those that have built a trust-based route to storytelling. In fact, an MTM survey showed that 85% of viewers in India trust YouTube creators for their views about brands and products. And this is fueling a social marketing sector that is now a critical engine of the Indian economy. In fact, I loved the example of Vigil Auntie that we just celebrated, which is such a powerful way to bring this economy alive. And no wonder, therefore, a recent report by Boston Consulting Group estimated that the creative ecosystem direct contribution to revenues are projected to reach over 100 billion by the end of this decade itself. And therefore, by enabling these new voices and democratizing access to opportunity, I think we're collectively fueling a decentralized economic engine that's essential for India's ambition towards the 5 trillion economy. You know what's even more exciting? That all this entrepreneurship and enterprises that are being built, they're not just local. They are our most potent global export. And that takes me to the second pillar, the globalization of Indian content. What a huge opportunity. Today, Indian creators and filmmakers are flipping the narrative. They are no longer just local stars. They are global icons in their own right. In fact, last year, content produced by channels on YouTube in India saw over 15% of their content be consumed by audiences that came from outside India. Such is the power of our content already today. Now, whether it's an Indian tech educator helping students in the US or Indian musicians and artists trending in Latin America, India's soft power is being exported every second through digital videos. We see this exemplified by music and artists in particular, like Hanuman Kind, whose explosive global reach proves that Indian hip-hop and local music can transcend borders and dominate international charts. I truly believe that this cultural influence is the new brand equity of our Viksit Bharat. And therefore, to move to the next level of global leadership, we must lean into the tools of the future. Yes, artificial intelligence. In the next decade, AI will become the digital wind beneath the wings of the Indian creative industry. The FICCI AI report has estimated that already 75% of organizations that are using AI have reported measurable results. So it's moved beyond speculation to real impact. And nowhere, I believe, is this evident more than in the creative industries. We are moving into an era, a very special era, where the distance between an idea and its execution is shrinking at warp speed. AI is now an end-to-end collaborator across the entire workflow from brainstorming and planning to creation and distribution. Take some of the tools from Google, like Veo and Flow. These tools are already in the hands of filmmakers and marketers. But what about tomorrow? Tomorrow, these tools could power creative artists to generate high-definition cinematic visuals that once required a Bollywood-sized budget. Now, I want to make it clear that AI isn't going to replace the creative professional. I know it is a fear that a lot in the industry feel. But it's a lot more about liberating and creating creative freedom, automating the technical grind that everyone faces of color correction, audio syncing, and so on, so that they can focus on what truly matters and the true dream of creative professionals, which is to focus on the human, emotional core of their story. Even taking a simple thing as language, it's for so long been a huge barrier, especially for the Indian regional creators. And today, localization, such as subtitling and dubbing, which already accounts for 35 to 50% of OTT post-production efforts, underscores the power that AI can unleash for our creative industry. And therefore, through many of these tools, we would see powerful dubbing, enabling regional content from India to surpass far beyond the 15% mark that we've already seen. Imagine a creator speaking in Marathi can instantly be heard in Spanish or Portuguese, forget English, with realistic lip syncing and ensuring that local voices are never lost in translation. Democratizing this potential is a national priority, and therefore at YouTube, we are really proud that we've been able to scale some of these initiatives with the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting in partnership with IICT to ensure that the next generation of storytellers are ready with the tools of a tech-forward India. Together, as we look forward to the next decade, which is our focus for today, the opportunity for all of us as policymakers, capital allocators, business leaders, is to really recognize that the creative industries today now represent a formal, high-impact sector of the economy. Gone are the days when it used to be seen as pure entertainment. The scale of this impact is no longer theoretical or measured in likes and subscribes. It is measurable in real impact on people and lives. Let me take the example again of YouTube. Oxford Economics research last year showed that YouTube's creative ecosystem contributed over 16,000 crore to India's GDP and supported nearly 1 million full-time equivalent jobs. This is the living proof of where the orange economy can take the next decade. I believe as creative industries, our mission, in order to fuel this growth, should be to keep lowering the floor on one end so that more can participate and have access, but on the other hand, keep raising the creative bar and ceiling with some awards like this, but also by shaping the next decade and going and winning and conquering the global stage. For us, this is the journey that we have chosen to embark on, and we look forward to continuing to work with all of you and more of the creative industry as we do that. Together, looking forward to building this roadmap and leading India into a self-reliant, globally influential, powerful content nation. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Gunjan, for that insightful address. Would like to request you to kindly stay back on stage. I would also now request Rohit Kapoor, CEO, Food Marketplace Swiggy, Shashi Sinha, Strategic Advisor, Omnicon Media Inc., and Dilshad to kindly join us on stage for the next set of awards. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to honor the creative minds who turn products into emotions and campaigns into cultural movements. Our first category is brand and storytelling. recognizing narratives that moved beyond messaging to create memory and meaning. We begin with the bronze winner in the brand and storytelling category, a campaign that captured the magic of Diwali with warmth and wonder, built on an insight so pure it felt like a shared memory. Well, congratulations to the HP team. A big round of applause. Can we have you on stage, please? Ladies and gentlemen, you can be louder. Many congratulations, team. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Next, we have the Silver Awards in the brand and storytelling category, and it goes to a brand that has turned generosity into more than just a value, making it a powerful and consistently creative strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the entire Cadbury team. Many congratulations. Very well deserved. And now we move on to the gold winner in the brand and storytelling category at the Storyboard18 Global Pioneers Summit and Awards for Creativity 2026. The winner has been a challenger brand that stepped into a category dominated by giants and won audiences over with a distinct, refreshing voice. Let's hear it for them, ladies and gentlemen. Many congratulations to the Lahori Zira team. A huge round of applause for them, please.
I think it's universally loved work. Congratulations. Please come. Hold on, team. Ashish, please bring everybody back on stage. We'd like to hear from the founders of this brand, Lahori Zira. It's absolutely captured our imagination and taken us back to a time when creativity really meant something. And we would love to hear from you on what drives you and a little bit about the work that you all do.
I think it's just a privilege and honor to be amongst such a intellectual and gifted audience. To be honest with you, what we're really trying to do is create that option, create that generations have grown up drinking the colas of other countries. It's about time other countries' generations start drinking our products. So we need to create brands, and that's what we're trying to do. Thank you.
And I would like to thank all the professionals who have done, behind the hard work, the concept, and the team, the entire team of the brand. Thank you.
Many congratulations, team. Ladies and gentlemen, we now turn to a special honor in this category, the Incredible India Spotlight. Through creativity that is rooted, evocative, and unmistakably Indian, this state has set a new standard for what destination storytelling can be. Huge congratulations to MP Tourism, the Sitaris. I request that the team kindly join us on stage. Yes, sir, please. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Many congratulations. And now a category that speaks to the soul of why creativity matters beyond commerce, purpose-driven creativity. These are the campaigns that asked, what does our brand stand for? And then had the courage to say it out loud for all the world to hear. Let's begin with the bronze winner in the purpose-driven creative category. This is a brand that's been part of Indian homes for decades, built on trust and tradition. And this campaign didn't just say that, it made you feel it. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Bronze Award winner for purpose-driven creativity, ITC Ashirwad, for feeding two birds with one grain. Please keep the applause going. Many congratulations, team. Now moving on to the silver winner in this category, a message that really stayed with you. Simple, powerful, and hard to ignore. It turned purpose into something deeply personal. Please give it up for the Lays team. Many congratulations. Many congratulations to the Lays team. And finally, the gold winner in the purpose-driven creativity category, and the winner is a brand that's been bonding India for decades. And when it tells a purpose-driven story, you know it's going to land and stay with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Fevicol for Tika ID. Many congratulations, team. Give it up once more for Fevicol for Tika ID. Sir, yeah.
Bharat, can you just maybe say a quick few words for the team since you're already on stage? We'll have you back later also, but just a few quick words.
Getting a microphone. Can we have a microphone, please?
See, the wonderful thing is you walk in at the right time, your team gets an award, they do all the hard work, people are insisting you get the award. What more can life, how better can life be? But glad to be here. I'll come back a little later, but I just commend Dilshad and the team. I think creativity is something that is slowly and steadily eroding, and for us to put it back center stage, give it pride of place, and I see a lot of old friends here, a lot of creative old friends here. Hopefully they're going to win lots of awards. But to my mind, I've always believed that, listen, the answer to small media budgets is great creativity. So looking forward to the evening.
Thank you, sir, for those words. And once again, congratulations to the entire team. Moving on, our next category is creative effectiveness, because great creativity isn't just beautiful, it works. The brand in the category went beyond telling a good story. They moved the needle. Let's begin with the bronze winner in the creative effectiveness category. In a category as competitive as construction materials, this campaign showed that trust isn't claimed. It's built over time and earned with authenticity. congratulations to the Novoco team. Please join us on stage to accept the award. Many congratulations, team. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Next award is for the silver winner in the creative effectiveness category. This was a fresh take on AI, making it feel human, useful, and relatable. A great example of creativity driving real impact. Many congratulations to the Very Quick team. Let's hear it for them. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, give it up for the entire team. Many congratulations, truly well deserved. And now let's move on to the gold winner in the creative effectiveness category. In a world that celebrates constant hustle, this campaign made doing nothing feel powerful again, turning a simple idea into a standout cultural movement. Kudos to the Kit Kat team. A huge round of applause for them. Give it up for our winners once more, ladies and gentlemen. Many congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us. Request our felicitators a big thank you. Thank you for doing the honors. Dilshad, request you to kindly stay back. Now it's time for a question that never really goes away in our industry. What makes a brand last, not just for a few years, but across generations, through changing consumers, changing platforms, and constant reinvention? Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker leads one of India's most iconic and deeply loved consumer companies. For many of us, it's a brand we've grown up with and one that continues to stay relevant with every new generation. Please give a huge round of applause to Sudhir Sithapati, the CEO and Managing Director of Godrej Consumer Products Limited. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this evening. Over to you, Dilshad.
I'm so glad we got you here, Sudhir, joining
Thanks,
us. And you know what, I'm just going to kick off with something that Bharat said, that the best solution to small media budgets is creativity. GCPL, of course, doesn't have small media budgets. But still, tell me, what is the power of creativity in your mind for that breakthrough in business, in brands, and eventually leading to building enduring brands?
Thanks, Dilshad, and hi, everybody. I liken advertising a little bit to giving a child a bitter medicine. No consumer really likes advertising, that's the fact. They don't really like many of our brands either. They'd rather watch their soap or whatever content there is. The fact is we're an intrusion in their lives. And it's like a parent who has to be creative in giving bitter medicine to the kid. So you have to put a little bit of sugar, you have to dance a bit, and you have to find creative ways of getting kids to swallow the medicine.
Absolutely. You made some bold decisions at GCPL, one of which was, of course, in-housing creativity. How has that worked out for you, Sudhir? Do you still feel that there's also value in creative partnerships of years before?
No, I think whether you in-house creative or you outsource creative is a little bit of an, it's not the relevant question. It's a who carries the salary, is not the material question. I think the question is that India is a great hub for creativity. And at this time, we felt it was easier for us to get the best of creative talent. I mean, we do feel, for example, there's a reasonable amount of churn in advertising. Maybe the salaries aren't what they used to be. And creativity and advertising is so important for us. I just saw an email which, in the last few years, we've kind of more than doubled our advertising budget. We're one of India's largest advertisers. So creativity is so important for us that it's important for us to have consistency of creative talent and extremely high creative talent. So that's really why we insourced it. These things can change. I mean, when the industry changes, we'll change.
You said that advertising is almost like that annoyance and people would rather watch their soaps, other content, cricket even. When you see something like the IPL, which is playing out right now, Sudhir, and you see that kind of clutter and what several have also said, a lack of creativity. Any thoughts on what you see on television, on your mobile screen, on the IPL when it comes to creativity?
I mean, we don't advertise on IPL, and we never have. I've not done it in my previous job. I haven't done it here, and the odds are I'll never do it. But when I look at television in terms of creativity, it is probably a little lower than what it was 10, 15 years ago. Is what my suspicion is. I don't particularly know why. Maybe the rigor, maybe the big budgets, maybe in the day of television. And by the way, I'm happy to talk about television because I'm just back last week from a visit in Orissa, and television is very much alive and kicking. Frankly, so is print, contrary to what a lot of people think. So maybe it's the diffusion of media. Maybe something has, I would say something has changed a bit, and I find a little fewer sort of viscerally creative stuff. You find a lot of cool stuff floating around, but the kind of old-fashioned, consumers haven't really changed. But that kind of old-fashioned visceral advertising, you see less of it. I saw a Cadbury ad here, which I really liked. But otherwise, you find less of it than before.
That you just feel. Do you think we are over-indexing on performance-driven work at this point in time?
Performance-driven work is not advertising, it's sales. So over-indexing means it's like, giving a poster on a shop. So it's a below-the-line spend, it's a lower funnel activity, but it's not brand building. So, I mean, I don't know if you're over-indexing it or not, but I don't consider it as marketing in a strict sense.
Absolutely. Let me ask you a little bit about how you would gauge and describe consumer sentiment right now. There's, of course, a lot of pressure. Are we seeing caution, still some aspiration, or a mix of both?
It's just since it's fresh in my mind, last week I went to a village 2 hours away from Bhubaneswar, and I spent a day there. So after a long time, I did a full day with a rural consumer, and I spent an hour or two with each consumer. And there was a time I used to do a lot more of it than I do now. I'm guilty of not doing as much as I should, and that was one of my lessons is you can never stop doing those things. But what actually surprised me more than anything else is how little has changed in India. So we talk a lot about how much has changed in India, but visually the only material change that I could see in that village from 25 years ago was the mobile phone. So digital and telephony, everybody had it, and the internet was ubiquitous. But apart from that, there's a very, very large part of India where very, very little has changed. In fact, that part of India is a lot, little has changed means you do find some progress, you find some income, but fundamentally, except for the internet, not much has changed. So the question I ask myself, because a lot of people keep asking me, advertising has changed, digital age, but my answer is I don't see the kind of consumer change except in a small sliver of India, which all of us kind of interact with. So then I wonder why this kind of change. Why are we not making the kind of Cadbury film that I just saw now? More of that is certainly a puzzle.
You don't have answers to that right now.
I think we've got carried away by digital. That's the...
Elaborate on that.
Digital is a medium, it's not a message. So it's a medium like anything else. But the fundamentals of advertising remain the same. People have to enjoy the ad. I told you it's a medicine. People have to enjoy it. They have to lean back and look at you. So whether it's influencer content or whether it is a YouTube ad or whether it is TV, the core of advertising, it's the core of it is it has to be enjoyable. And I feel we're letting the medium take over the message.
Besides the Cadbury ad that you just saw, anything else that fits your definition of entertaining advertising that you've seen recently, and it can't be one of your brands?
I mean, I like the Lahori Jeera ad as well. So, I mean, it was different, but, it had an idea. It was creative. It kind of hooked you in a old-fashioned sense from what you see now. But look, I give a lot of weightage, Dilshad, when evaluating or looking at advertising, because you asked a question there saying what makes brands last long. So I give a lot of weightage, A, to enjoyability, it must be enjoyable, and B, to consistency. I mean, like, Bharat is here, but, Fevicol genuinely has been so consistent. You said the word, bonds, and you know what brand you're talking about, right? So, in other words, the brands that stand out today are actually the brands that stood out 10 years ago. Because they stood out 10 years ago and they stand today, they've done remarkable work.
Absolutely. One more question, just switching tracks here. We've seen this wave of fantastic homegrown brands emerge across sectors, beverages, beauty, skincare, FMCG, foods. What is your take on the brands today that are emerging in the D2C space? What are they doing right that the legacy FMCG majors, and a lot of them are, of course, aggressively acquiring as well, some like your competitors, Marico, really aggressively. What are they doing right? What can you take away from what they have that the legacy FMCG majors don't?
I've looked at a lot of D2C brands, and there are very few which are seriously profitable. So if a brand is big but not seriously profitable, you do question branding, because in today's day and age, performance marketing is a bit of pricing. It's a bit of a discounting. Now, the two brands that I know, one of which we bought recently, and the other one, I don't want to name it, but I've been looking at it and kind of really impressed with it. The difference in them is that they do fixed cost marketing. They don't do variable cost marketing. So of all the DTC brands, the two brands that I've been impressed with are brands that do fixed cost marketing, not performance. They use a different medium, which is the mobile phone and not television. And they use influencers. But the influencer campaigns that they work on, and if you speak to the founders of both of them, it's quite interesting that they believe that influencers don't educate but entertain. That's what's in common to both these brands. So the two brands that have stuck out to me are using the same principles of old marketing, which is entertain the consumers. They don't want to know about your product. The chances are they already know about it. You entertain them and they'll reward you. Both these people who are wildly profitable, right, follow the entertainment model.
You've given us a few hints.
Well, the first one is Mustaq, but the second one I'm not telling you.
I'll ask you more on that later, but thank you so much for joining us. And great point on influencer marketing, and Gunjan is right here, so we can collectively talk about that someday again. Thank you so much, Sudhir.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Sudhir, and thank you, Dilshad, for that engaging conversation. Request you both to kindly stay back on stage. Now, before strategy, before copy, before media, there is craft. The design and visual craft category celebrates the brands that knew this instinctively and made work that was enthralling to look as it was impossible to ignore. Let's begin with the Bronze Award winner in the Design and Visual Craft category. And the winner is Black and White for reasserting identity through graphic boldness. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for the team. Request you to kindly come up on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, keep the applause going. Congratulations. The next award is for the silver winner in the Design and Visual Craft category, and the award goes to Puma India for the unboxing product stories beyond the box. Let's hear it for them, ladies and gentlemen. Many congratulations. And now we move to the Gold Award in this category, and we have two winners this year. Let's begin with the first, a transformation that has redefined how the brand shows up visually, bold, confident, and impossible to miss. I'd like to invite the team to join us on stage to receive the award. Many congratulations to the Air India team. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for them. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us on stage, and many congratulations once again. And now the second gold award. The second gold award goes to Smirnoff for Flavor is a Vibe. Congratulations to Team Smirnoff. A big round of applause. Request you all to kindly come up on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, keep the applause going. And now our final category in this segment is Next Gen Formats. Now, these are the campaigns that rewrote the playbook using gaming, immersive experiences, and technologies that most brands hadn't even thought to explore. Beginning with the bronze winner in the Next Gen Formats category, when your audience lives online and plays to win, you meet them exactly where they are. Our bronze winner went where the audience was, played by their rules, and won beautifully. Ladies and gentlemen, many congratulations to the Renault India team. Please join us on stage. Many congratulations, team, and thank you very much for joining us here this evening. Next up, we have the Silver Award in the Next Gen Formats category, an experience that went beyond entertainment, bringing people together and turning participation into something joyful and creative. Many congratulations to the Nick Ice Creams team. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for them louder. Congratulations, Nick's Ice Cream. And now the Gold Award in the Next Gen Formats category, and the Gold Award goes to Fevikwik for AI Pack. Congratulations once again. Request the team to kindly come back on stage. A louder applause, ladies and gentlemen, for the team. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Setupati. Thank you so much for doing the honors. Thank you, Dilshad. Some people try to predict where marketing is headed. Others are out there building it in real time. Our next session brings you a voice that has consistently been ahead of the curve, shaping conversations around attention, culture, and what it really takes to build brands today. This is also your chance to be a part of the conversation, because we'll be opening it up for live Ask Gary V. So if you've got a question, keep it ready. Joining us virtually in just a moment, our special guest for this conversation, a businessman, author, speaker, and internet personality, Gary Vaynerchuk. Let's give him a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Gary, very quickly, you've often spoken about attention being the single most valuable asset in marketing. And today, with every platform competing for it, what does earning attention actually look like for brands today?
First of all, it's a real honor to be here. Really enjoyed those incredible awards and sentiments about that wonderful gentleman. So it's an honor to be with all of you. Attention has always been the same thing everybody in this room has understood, which is the creative is always going to be the variable. But over the last 5 to 7 years, the consumer attention has shifted so dramatically to the mobile device, and within the mobile device, to 7 to 10 platforms that have a shocking percentage of the consumer's time. And with social dominating so much of the minutes that everybody spends consuming, the way to garner attention within those platforms are not only with the amazing creative ideas so many in the room have,
sure,
but the biggest issue for the advertising industry is I don't believe we respect the context of the distribution channel. Understanding thumbnails, the first 3 seconds, the copy, the unit type, whether it's a carousel or a reel or a picture or written words on LinkedIn or other platforms. I think there's a big disconnect right now with how much science is within the art, and more importantly, all 10 of these dominant platforms, and I'm aware obviously TikTok's not available in India, but so many of the world platforms are, and so many indigenous platforms within the country. We are no longer in a place where we have to use human beings to judge creativity. We are in a place where all these algorithms are written on relevance. You are only able to get organic views when you've made creative that is relevant and has garnered attention. And the biggest thing that everybody in this room needs to leave here tonight with is understanding that you can measure creativity by organic views achieved. We have entered the era of where media should not be hiding bad creative, but working media should be amplifying good creative. And good creative is no longer judged in boardrooms or by awards or fake reports. It's judged by organic views achieved when no media or boosting has been involved to mix the data.
Absolutely. And, picking up from what you just said, as we know, AI is rapidly changing how content is created and distributed at scale. Gary, in a world where everything can be generated, what will actually make a brand stand out and feel human?
I think that's yet to be decided. I think this room, our industry, many in my office, me included, by the way, we have great hopes and dreams that the human touch, and you know this, in these kind of events, everyone's like, the AI will never change the craft. And we say all these things to protect ourselves from this extraordinary fear of where we're going. I think for the short term, the next 5 years or so, us humans that generate creative ideas will still be in a very strong place. We're still prompting in, we're still using our strategic and creative minds to work with the agentic AI and the AI when we choose to work with it. But what breaks out, I don't believe a single person in this room, me included, will be able to tell the difference if a 1-minute video was made by a human or by AI in 5 years. And that's something that we need to come to terms with.
Sure.
But I still think the most creative people in the world will find unlimited opportunities within the world of arts and business.
Okay, all right. Gary, I've got a few audience questions with me. This is from marketing leader Shubhranshu Singh. He's asking, has the creator economy peaked? If so, what is the next unfair advantage to brands once content is commoditized?
Well, I mean, it's definitely not peaked. Everybody in this room knows big companies have not maximized the creator economy yet.
Okay.
There's no Fortune 500 global company that has actually done enough work with the creator economy. I don't think it's peaked. I think anybody who's in the room that has a consumable good, the biggest thing that's looming around the world, and it's starting to really excite me how big of an opportunity this is, and especially in India, where we do not have TikTok or whatnot yet. There are some entrepreneurs in your amazing country who are about to build live social shopping. And so I think the affiliate and live social shopping era is upon us. So I think that will be one massive competitive moat of the next decade. Live shopping on social media. I think analog, experiential agencies in the room, clap it up, because I think real life events and analog in a world of AI and hyper digital is actually going to be tremendous marketing opportunities. So as we go more 2050, I think the 1950s energy of old school experiential sampling, event marketing, I think is going to do quite well.
Okay.
So I think there's many things emerging.
Sure. My next question is from the CEO of VML India, Babita Barua. And she's asked, what's the one cultural shift most businesses are still underestimating, and how should leaders act on it today?
That's a very good question. Makes sense from a very smart person. There's many. I'm going to choose to go in an interesting direction because I think it will bring value to this room. The biggest cultural shift that we need that has happened in the world, but it has not been accepted in the advertising industry, is we as creatives and strategists need to lead into humility. For any business that's being represented in this room, they need to be more relevant with more different consumer segmentations. The biggest consumer cultural shift is when you have 1 billion people in an amazing country like India, there are 4,000 different groups of people, not 18 to 35-year-old males or just women versus men. There are so many different interests and subcultures, and we must market to all of them. And so we must fall in love with quantity in our industry, and our industry loves subjective quality, and our production costs are too high. And so I think the biggest cultural shift is the fragmentation of interest amongst people, and we must market towards it.
All right, my next question is related to what you just said. It's from Gaurav Ramdev. He's the CMO of Visa India and South Asia. India is a large market with a fragmented populace where scale comes fast, but loyalty doesn't. So what does modern brand building look like in this type of a market where consumers are deeply value conscious and rapidly premiumizing as well?
Relevance. You know, as much as things have changed, this concept of relevance to consideration to purchase is more tried and true together today than ever before. But everybody in the room, including an incredible business like Visa, in fact, I see Frank Cooper, the global CMO, tomorrow in New York, and we'll talk about this. Big companies are not producing enough different creative to feed the fragmentation. Every brand in the room right now should be producing 50 to 100 pieces of advertising for social every day.
Okay, 50 to 100 a day.
A day. I, for Gary Vee, my brand, am producing 400 pieces of content across 10 different platforms and 60 different handles a day in the next 30 days. That is what our team is building towards.
All right. Gary, we would have loved to ask you more questions, but we are pressed for time. Thank you very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Gary Vee.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to pause for a moment that is very close to all our hearts. Well, there are careers and then there are legacies. Piyush Pandey belongs entirely to the latter. For over 4 decades, Piyush ji has been the creative conscience of Indian advertising, a storyteller of rare brilliance, a leader of extraordinary generosity, and a human being whose warmth fills every room he walks into. His work has made India laugh, cry, celebrate, and reflect. Here is a glimpse into a legacy that has shaped generations and will continue to inspire many more. Let's take a look.
There are campaigns, and then there are ideas that become part of who we are. And the man who built these ideas, Piyush Pandey, with his booming laughter and razor-sharp mind, Pandey transformed the very grammar of Indian advertising.
By and large, I found that in my work, there's some touch to humanity, some touch to, you say, yeah, I remember this, I like this, I have done this, I wish I'd done this.
Ears to the ground, eyes on the street, India in his soul. Pandey turned everyday truths into unforgettable stories.
If you are trying to communicate something, I better engage you. If I don't engage you, then I'm talking to a wall.
His work will continue to inspire generations, helping us find kuch khas jo hai hum sabhi mein.
Why am I thinking of leaving? The other guy should leave. It's my place.
Leaving behind a legacy that has a hold over our hearts, jo kabhi tootega nahi.
And for this special tribute, I'd like to invite Dilshad Irani to join us back on stage.
Again, thank you everyone for joining us. When we actually conceived of this award, this journey, one of the first thought, in fact, that crossed our mind was to have Piyush in some way, shape or form present with us. And interesting story, when I started my career in journalism, and one of the first big projects that I worked on, incidentally, which was also an award show at a different media house, it was Piyush who was our biggest supporter at that point in time. And in fact, I remember we had Piyush, Balki, and Prasoon in the room together, helping us design the theme, the visual, everything for this new property. And it's just remarkable that we are all here today. And we all have a Piyush story. He's touched our lives in many ways. Everyone has a favorite quote, a favorite story, an inspirational moment, because that's just who he was. He inspired, and he lit up every room that he walked in, and that's something that everyone he's interacted with will tell you. So it's a privilege, it's an honor to have so many people who've been friends, family, colleagues, competitors who are here with us this evening to celebrate the one, the only Piyush Pandey. And with that, let me invite up on stage Mr. Bharat Puri, his partner, his friend, someone who's had a long journey and long bond with Piyush. And along with Bharat, I'd also like to invite up on stage Balki and Prasoon Joshi. Again, two people who've had incredible journeys with Piyush Pandey as well. So please, can we have you both up on stage as well? Bharat, I want to start with you first. Can we just maybe move this way a little bit? I don't want to ask you questions about Piyush and what he means to us all and his legacy. I just want you to tell me, what is that one instinct and belief that he held on to that you feel that today generations mustn't lose? Just your thoughts.
See, it's fascinating. I mean, it's now almost 5 months since we lost him. And the wound is still raw. I would say, the absolute privilege of working with him for over close to 40 years. We worked across Asian Paints, Cadbury, and Pidilite. The wonderful thing is he did all the good work. We as company fellows kept getting lots of accolades. And to my mind, I thought a day like this, rather than make it emotional, we've done lots of tributes to him. But given there are so many marketeers here, so many creative people here, if I was to take a step back and say, hey, listen, how do you create, you're at an award show. He probably won the greatest amount of awards that ever existed. And he did it very effectively. How do you do that? And I would start by just saying the one word, which was his favorite word, which was truly partner. It would start at 7 o'clock in the morning, where your phone in those days of the landline, it would ring and say, partner, idea suno. And, and this is a true story. My phone rings at 7 o'clock in the morning. He has this idea. I was then with Asian Paints, which is about Mera Wala Blue. Now, he also tells me that the ad has to be shot in the next 2 days because it's set in the Pushkar Fair. And Pushkar, partner, itna bada set hai, ye humko free mein mil raha hai, to humko karna padega. On the phone, we approved the film. On the phone, and 5 days later, the film was actually presented. The man was, and I take it from there to partnership. Some of you who are old enough remember the famous Cadbury worms crisis, where Cadbury went through this big crisis. Piyush epitomized partnership. Every second day, he would ring me, and partner, ab kya hua? I went to a sales meet like this, talking to my salespeople, and one of the guys suggested, which I thought was, sir, we should get Amitabh Bachchan as a true brand ambassador. And Piyush thought about it and said, partner, ye acha idea hai. He was with us through and through. We met Mr. Bachchan at 10 o'clock in the night, told him, you have to come and see our factory and believe. The wonderful thing was, in all of this, he was a true partner. And a partner means you could trust him. He's the only fellow I have approved advertising on the phone. I have approved advertising based on what he's telling me, saying, I still remember we were doing a campaign again around the colors of jerseys when the World Cup in '87 was being held in India. And Hamara Wala Blue lost to Unka Wala Blue, which is Sri Lanka. And we did this thing. And he said, partner, ye karna chahiye. They were a shade better. And we did it. And my God, we became heroes in Sri Lanka. So to my mind, I'll stop here because I can go on for, time immemorial.
You must tell us about that sense of ownership, right? I think that's what you're referring to right now. That sense of ownership and partnership.
It's like, I always joke. Prasoon is here. Prasoon and Piyush are the two best unpaid product managers that Fevicol has had for 40 years. Because by the time anything goes past the two of them, it is of such high quality that as a client, you keep getting credit for all their hard work. And I mean, it's such a wonderful partnership. I mean, I've had so many of the young creatives of Ogilvy come and tell me, अरे वो पीयूष के आपके पास तो हम पहुंच ही नहीं पाते कि पीयूष से ही नहीं पार होता है. And that is partnership, that's trust. And the fact that he owned the brand, was very clear about it. I still remember in some, one of the digital something, somebody did something on, he rang me up and I was abroad. He says, partner, how are they doing this to our bride? I had no idea what he was talking about. I spoke to the fellows. I said, if Piyush believes, usko band karo. Because that's the faith that you had that, listen, this man thinks the brand. I would say as a partner, and I mean his trademark passion, from the days of, the Mera Wala Blues and Mera Wala Creams, how I met Piyush was in those days, most advertising did not have Joshis and Balkis. It had DeCostas and DeMellos and so on and so forth. And all advertising was in English, and it would then get translated into Hindi. And, India was just opening up, Doordarshan had just happened, and the Asian Paints line was Celebrate with Asian Paints. It got translated as, and Prasoon will balk at this, it got translated as Asian Paints ke saath Jashan Manao. So I called the fellows and said, guys, I want a guy who is grown up speaking Hindi at home. And they said, hey, don't worry, we've got our Hindi copy chief. Usko bhejte hain. The Hindi copy chief was Piyush Pandey. The wonderful thing was, I told him, he says, yaar, ye to koi bewakoof log hai. Before I had reached home, I had a message at home saying, please call me back. Partner crack ho gaya hai. Har khushi mein rang laaye Asian Paints. And that's where it, the wonderful thing was, I then called the agency fellows and said, this will be the new creative on Asia. They said, oh, I said, no, this is the new creative. And it, started a partnership, which unfortunately ended last year, but we worked close to 40 years across continents, across brands. And the wonderful thing was, it was a true partnership. I mean, he listened, you could debate, you could push him back, he would push you back, and because both owned the brand. So I would say, if I have to give one piece of advice, listen guys, partnership does not mean playing client. Partnership means being true partners. As he would say, front foot pe khelo beta, or true partnership is apne dusre partner ko run out mat karana.
The cricket analogies. Prasoon, what a legacy, what a body of work. But more importantly, I think his legacy is also the people. His people, peers, like I said, competitors, colleagues, people he mentored. Let me keep the focus on the work, because that is what we are here to celebrate. That's the legacy we're here to celebrate also. Tell me about a piece of work that Piyush worked on, partnered with his teams, with his people, Prasoon, of course, that you think epitomizes his legacy. I know I'm asking you to pick from such an incredible body
it's very,
of work.
very difficult to pick out Piyush's work. I mean, I grew up with Piyush, and I miss him every day. Last week, I did release an ad I wrote on Dettol about mother. And a lot of people called me for that. And I remember I really missed Piyush Pandey's call, because I know what his relationship with mother was. And whenever I wrote about mother, first call I will get was Piyush Pandey. Prasoon is sitting here. First film I wrote in advertising was Nokia on mother. And is his Piyush's insistence that was the radio spot which he gave voice for, finally we made into a film. Then I remember when I wrote Tare Zami Par Tujhe Sab Hai Pata, Piyush was the first one to call. Partner rula diya. It kept on always in his head whenever he heard about some, and his relationship with his mother was genuine. In today's world, when we are, talking about so much of data and stuff, there is one relationship which stays always there, and which, anybody who knew Piyush knows how much it meant for Piyush when his mother was around. How much it meant for him. He cried openly when we talked about moms. And I think that his belief in the relationships, The other day when we were paying tribute to him, I talked about his infectious laughter. And today I was thinking I will probably talk about his laughter. But what was raw in my head is that on this ad of Dettol, Piyush would have been the first one to call me. Because he always cared about moms. And so wherever Piyush you are, we miss you. And one trait I told you, and which reflected in his work, was his emotions. And I think, we have to be learned to be kind to creative people, because creative people, and Piyush was one of the large-hearted creative people we had ever in this industry, who was never ashamed of showing his emotions publicly. And I think all of us learned that from him, that you can tell personal stories. You can tell personal stories, but remember, and it's a lot of, very respected client, not you, he's very seasoned, but a lot of clients sitting here, younger clients, whenever a creative person tells you a personal story, be kind. Because that person has taken the courage to be vulnerable in front of you. And that is very, very important. And I think that's one thing we should learn from what Piyush taught us, I would say.
Lovely. It reminds me of this moment that he shared, and he's, of course, shared this story before as well, when Piyush spoke about the Google reunion ad also. And he said that every time he watched that ad, he cried. So he wasn't afraid to, wear his emotions, his feelings on his sleeve. Balki, let me ask you this. Is that something for you as well that stood out about Piyush? Tell us a little bit about your moments with him.
I don't want to be kind to him because he's so-called gone, so I wouldn't kind of praise him too much. But I don't think any words are enough for him. The work that I first spoke to him about was Har Ghar Kuch Kehta Hai. It was the first time I said, I wish I had thought of this. After that, many followed. And personally, what he has done, what his agency has done. But I just want to share something that I don't think we've been, on the face of it, very kind to each other. But I think we've been the kindest. He has been the kindest to me, at least, in many aspects of life. And I'll tell you what happened. The last time I met him was at an award show like this. And normally he would ask me, what are you doing here? Because he knows that I don't kind of go for a lot of award shows. But he didn't ask me that because he had invited me for it. Because he was getting the Hall of Fame or something like that. Curious, whatever. That was the last time I met him. And I was sitting with him after the show. I think all of us were there together. Sitting, he told me one thing. Partner, like this. He said, we've stopped celebrating stuff. We really have stopped celebrating. We move on so fast. We don't talk about it enough. We don't celebrate the people enough. So just to start with, I want to as I'm sure he'll agree with this because he and I shared this together once upon a time. And there was a very dear friend of mine and a creative director, Faz, who passed away, a young chap, a couple of weeks back. His name is Anand Saspi. And he was possibly the purest artist I know. And why I'm saying this is he wrote a couple of books besides a lot of wonderful campaigns. And those books are like on par with whatever R.K. Narayan's written or whatever. Those who haven't read it, it's like half pants, full pants, and The Bookseller of Moga has those two books. And I remember reading out a chapter of that to Piyush. And he told me a very simple thing. He said, this boy, his childhood is his weapon. Since we're all talking about weapons these days. His childhood is his weapon. What a fantastic thing to kind of say. Your ammunition that you have inside you is his childhood. And you should just read those books to see what this boy has just brought it forward. And I wish Piyush was there today. He would have kind of really understood what I'm trying to say. And for a man like that, for a man who understood the sensitivity of people, for a man who understood the weapons of life, weapons of experience, every experience is a weapon for an artist. You know, we look at it as something like, but it is. It's our only weapon. We don't have anything else. It's only what we've kind of seen, heard, felt, this thing. And if you read this, you'll know that. I've always felt that whenever I come to a tribute like this, everything else, I don't think Piyush needs a tribute. I think Piyush needs a lot more. I don't think we should just remember Piyush. There's no point in us kind of paying tribute to a man like this if he's not part of our lives every day, if he doesn't affect our lives every day. So my suggestion is, advertising people who are so good at branding things and everything else, why just don't give an award in the name of Piyush Pandey? Why don't you make the gold? You have bronze, silver, gold, platinum, tungsten, white titanium, whatever shit that we have. Why don't we have the highest award as the Piyush Award? Why doesn't Piyush become a phrase? You've Piyushed it. You've done this. This is our Piyush man. Why doesn't he become a phrase in our vocabulary? Why doesn't he become the gold standard, what we kind of try to achieve? If he does, can you imagine somebody kind of giving that award to some piece of trash? You wouldn't, right? That you would really aspire for it. No, you'd be scared he'll come out there and whack the shit out of you. But I think we need to do that. We need to do this for this man so that he is not a memory. We don't need to kind of keep back, look at his work and his past and everything else. He has to affect our present. We don't need to do anything for him. He has to do a lot for us even now. So if we kind of if we brand him, we are great branders. We pride ourselves in kind of branding things and building brands and things like that. Let's build Piyush's brand so that it stays on for generations who've never kind of seen him.
Wow.
Okay, I think that's really, really important. And I've said this only once to somebody about Jasprit Bumrah. I just believe that we all kind of brand bats and everything else. How would you brand Jasprit Bumrah? Why does a ball need to be called a Duke's ball? Why can't it be called the Bumrah ball?
Wow.
Why can't you brand a ball like Bumrah? I think advertising needs to brand Piyush Pandey. It should not pay tribute to Piyush Pandey. He's that kind of a guy. Thanks.
Amazing. Amazing. And that's going to be our next ambition, of course. Thank you for that, Balki. Thank you for putting that out there. And now, very special moment for us all. It's my privilege to call on stage Mr. Prasoon Pandey. Please join us. Mr. Abhijit Avasti. Sonal Dabral, please join us on stage.
As they are joining you on stage, I'll tell you a little story because all four of them were introduced to me by Piyush. So it started with Sonal, and he told me कि लड़का है दिल्ली से, वो प्रसून का दोस्त है, और बड़ा visual लड़का है. And then the first fellow was Sonal, and Sonal came, and when Sonal and Piyush came to present, Sonal was नीला आसमान है, गेरू रंग से. He will tell you everything visually, right? Then they said, Sonal, you've damaged India enough. They're sending him to Malaysia. So I said, देखो अगर सोनाल जा रहा है तो उसी की तरह का एक चाहिए जो देखा एक बड़ा अच्छा दिल्ली में लड़का है उसकी तुम रेडियो एड सुनो उसका नाम है प्रसून जोशी. That's how Prasoon Joshi came to Bombay. And then he said, listen, और तुमने असली देखा नहीं है वो लिंटेस में काम करता है पर वहाँ ट्रेनिंग कर रहा है जरा मेरा भाई तुम्हारे घर के पीछे रहता है चलो उसको मिलने चलते हैं उसकी जरा चीता एड दे. That was Prasoon Pandey. And then he said, देखो मैं अपना नेफ्यू भेज रहा हूँ तुम्हें वो क्रिएटिव में वो थोड़ा जरा एक्साइटेबल है पर लड़के में टैलेंट है. And that was Abhijit Avasti. And today, to see all four of them, I mean, it's such a pleasure to see all four of them blossomed. I mean, they're all solid individuals in their own right. But, I think it's been a privilege for somebody like me to see all of them start in short pants and grow up.
It's a privilege for us to have you all today. I mean, words can't describe it. For us, it means the world to us. And now, of course, we would love to celebrate also the other bond that Piyush had with Ogilvy. And we have Harshad and Kainaz, the two CCOs of Ogilvy India. Incredible people, people carrying on Piyush's legacy every day. It's an honor and a privilege to have you all up on stage, and we would love to present. Before we do that, actually, let me just quickly. Come. Can we?
Ganas, come in. Yes, come. We have to go to the center.
What an incredible story you started us on, Bharat. And let me just quickly get Abhijit, you in first, and then Sonal, and then Prasoon, if you'd like to say a few words as well. Just, how are you, what is the sense and feeling right now as we celebrate creativity today with Piyush watching over us all? And something to what Balki said as well. Branding Piyush.
First of all, I love the word Bharat used, excitable. That's a way of saying that I was really short-tempered and unhinged. But that's such a respectable word. It's like saying Trump is excitable. Yeah, नहीं उतनी हिम्मत नहीं थी. Okay, I'll put it this way. We've all heard all the amazing bits, that ways in which Piyush inspires us, from phrases like front foot pe khelo, zindagi tumhare charo aur hai, etc. But if I was to pick one thing, and which I would tell myself, and I think this is how we've all been brought up in this field, and to the youngsters out there, is I think one quality of Piyush's which people don't talk about because maybe it's not sexy, is sincerity. And maybe that was a sort of partnership that Piyush spoke about. And I really feel the bit that we need to protect and nurture is the sincerity towards the craft, the people, and our intentions as to why we're doing the work. The reason I'm saying this today, and Piyush never thought twice about speaking his mind, so I'll say it today, is that he would always say that never forget that awards are the icing on the cake and they're not the cake. And therefore, obviously, I think Samajhdar ko ishara kafi hai. So just, my only request is let's be sincere towards our purpose.
Absolutely. Sonal, please say a few words for us as well.
Piyush ke baare mein, however much you say is less, is very little. But in all the years that I worked with Piyush and really closely working with him, one quality that always stood out, which was at the core of his being, was that he cared. He genuinely cared about things. He cared about his people. He cared about ideas. He cared about clients, which you beautifully talked about the partnership. Caring was there in his soul, in his DNA. And one quick story that I'll tell you, the very first, work ki to bahut sari stories hain, but this story is the first time that I actually properly interacted with him. We had come to Mumbai to shoot a film, this from Lintaz, Delhi, Prasoon and me. And Piyush instructed him that you and your friend will not stay in a hotel, you'll stay with me in my house. So I said, yaar, 5-star hotel ka to gaya chance, right? Anyway, chalo reh lete hain, So gaye, and in the evening when he came back from office, we were there at his place. And to begin with, there were stories happening, over drinks and laughter, his laughter that I was experiencing for the first time. Anyway, we slept 12:31 at night, after stories, laughter, as I said. In the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning, Prasoon and me in his guest room, I heard, Udo! So I was like totally taken aback. You wake up in that stupor at 5:30 in the morning, and I looked up, right? I think we were sleeping on the floor or something, yeah? I looked up, and there was Piyush, right? And he had this, with his mustache and all that, this fierce face. Utho tum dono, so rahe ho abhi tak. He was making sure that we don't get late for our first big shoot of our careers, right? Not only that, he had 2 cups of steaming hot tea in his hands, which he had made himself. So he had woken up at 4:35 in the morning, made that tea for his younger brother and for a friend of his younger brother, so that these 2 youngsters don't get late for the first shoot of their lives, first major shoot of their lives. Now that is caring. Beyond the work and all that, that's when I saw not just a caring leader, and thankfully by then I had decided to join Ogilvy. Not only a caring leader, but a caring human being. So care was Piyush Pandey.
Beautiful. How was the chai? That's the question also. How was the tea he made? Prasoon, would you like to say a few words? Do you remember that moment?
Actually, it's everybody's experience is the same. What made Piyush, I feel, the rarest of rare human beings is not just the fact that he possessed a magical mind, but also a truly golden heart. He was genuinely interested in everybody around him. He was actually invested in everybody around him. And that's why all his clients quickly became his best pals, meaning thick buddies. They would request him to join them on their family vacations. They would, Subhranshu yahan pe hai. They would make his favorite meals and send them home. All his colleagues, of course, they were all his best pals. He knew everything. He knew whose mother needs some help, so he would call up which town is she in. Then he'd call up some doctor there who also happens to be his best pal, okay? And say, yaar, usko samal lena yaar, please. And these guys would all go to these, award shows, win everything, and party together till the bar shut down. And then he would call Goshto, his cook. And he'd say, Goshto, keep the bar ready. I'm coming with 35 buddies. So then 35 buddies at 2 at night would land up in Goshto's bar. And Goshto himself was Piyush's thick buddy. So every film we made, he would call Goshto. He said, Goshto, dekho yaar, kaisa hai ye? And he genuinely waited for Goshto's response because he said, that's the guy that we are talking to. If it doesn't work for him, it doesn't work. To the extent that, there was a very fancy award show in those days in Oberoi's, a black tie dinner creative award. And Piyush got Goshto to dress in suit and black tie, and he took Goshto along. And everybody was wondering, who's this gentleman with Piyush? Because he nods and smiles all through the evening, but he hasn't said a word. And curiously, every time Piyush's drink finishes, he quietly goes and gets a new drink. Then Piyush introduced everybody to Goshto and said, this is Goshto, my cook, my best buddy. But I tell you what, he's also the best judge for good advertising.
Just to complete that, the Goshto episode is obviously being around Piyush, he also learned so much and he became so much of almost like a part of the industry. There would be times, and Prasoon and I have been in the room, Piyush would show him a film and Goshto would say like this, Bhaiya, ise award milega magar maal nahi bikega. He would say that.
What a judge of good work. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And let me just finally come to Harshad and Kaina's leaders, the creative leaders at Ogilvy today, shaping so much of the work we see, enjoy, and love. Few quick words on this moment, and for gracing us at the first ever Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity. Such a privilege and honor to have you all. Kaina, over to you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very much, Dilshad. And thank you for giving us the opportunity to say a few words. The way you, me, a lot of us here binge watch shows on Netflix or Hotstar or wherever it may be, Piyush binge watched life. He was a binge watcher of life. The observations that Piyush had on life were just amazing. And because of this unique thing that he stuck to from day one of his career to the last day, Piyush could simplify, clarify, and solve anything for you. So, like Bharat started off saying, it's been 5.5 months now. And of course, we haven't talked to Piyush, but that doesn't mean that Piyush is not with us. His presence is felt every day. When we are at any crossroads, all of us, and I'm speaking for everyone in Ogilvy, the one mantra that we live by is WWPD. What would Piyush do? If this question popped up in my head, what would Piyush do? Whatever first answer that comes to your mind is the right answer. We had a global conference in India And everyone, about 75 people attended. Prasun, you came one day. And we all got T-shirts which says WWPD. So across the world, we are now all wearing black T-shirts with WWPD, which says, what would Piyush do?
Lovely.
Coming to the way things are nowadays, every day there's a new breaking news about our industry, about the world, the uncertainties, AI going to, ramrod us, what is going to happen. And Harshad and I were just talking about all of these uncertainties. And again, we asked ourselves, what would Piyush do? And Harshad very cleverly told me, he said, you know what? Piyush has already left the answer for us. It's in a poem written by Piyush. It's a short poem written by Piyush, which I will request Harshad to narrate for us. And once you listen to that poem, you will not have any more questions, any more uncertainty. Harshad, can you please? Yeah.
Hi. So as Kenna said, the binge watcher of life and all the gifts that Piyush has given us, and of course, placing it with everything that is happening with our industry, with our world today, the uncertainties, the storms that we find ourselves surrounded by. One such huge cyclone hit the western coast of India in 2021. Piyush happened to be residing in his Goa residence then, and he observed something about the storm and wrote the sweetest, most innocent sounding poem. It is childishly simple, but the depth that it holds for all of us. I would just like to read it out over here. I have it here in Piyush's own handwriting. The title of the poem, it's in Hindi. It says, Mera Nariyal Ka Ped. And the poem goes on to say, Kabhi idhar jhuka, kabhi udhar jhuka, तूफान के डर से नहीं रुका, अपनी जिद पर ये अड़ा रहा, सब टूट गए ये खड़ा रहा, ये नारियल का पेड़ कुछ सिखाता है, जीने की राह दिखाता है. Piyush Pandey, post cyclone, May 2021.
Wow.
So in uncertain times, as many storms, as many uncertainties gather all of us, our beloved industry, just know that Piyush has somewhere left this mantra for us. Be like Piyush's Nariyal Ka Ped, and you will weather every storm.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you all for being with us today. It's a huge honor. Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for celebrating the legacy of Piyush Pandey with us today. Requesting everyone to kindly take their seats. Also requesting Dilshad and Mr. Bharat Puri and Mr. Prasoon Joshi to kindly come back on stage to present our next set of awards. Ladies and gentlemen, we now arrive at the final segment of the Storyboard 18 Awards for Creativity. The Bold Brand of the Year award goes to the brand that had the courage to stand for something and the creative conviction to say it in a way the world couldn't ignore. A brand that knows exactly who it is and shows up that way every single time. A brand that has shown time and again that scale doesn't have to come at the cost of soul, continuing to surprise and connect with millions in meaningful ways. Congratulations to the Flipkart team. A huge round of applause. Request the team to kindly come up on stage. The whole Flipkart family is here. Keep the applause going. Many congratulations to the entire Flipkart family. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the final award of the evening, the one every agency in the room has been quietly hoping to hear. The Creative Force of the Year, Agency of the Year, is the team that brought the most consistent, impactful, and genuinely inspired creative thinking to the industry. In a world where everyone is trying to be louder, this is a team that has let the work do the talking, and tonight it's been heard clearly. Congratulations, Team Enormous. Kindly come on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, a louder applause, please. Thank you so much. Congratulations once again. Thank you so much, sir, for doing the honors. Well, what an evening. We came here to celebrate creativity and leave reminded that it's what will shape ideas, build culture, and define India's next decade with meaning and imagination. A heartfelt thank you to our speakers, our guests, and all of you for being part of this evening. And a special thanks once again to our partners, title partner Hyundai, associate partners Seat and Reliance. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today